our Director General mentioned that. It's not only a growth sector in itself, but it's also a vital enabler of growth in other sectors. Appropriately harnessed, there are many things we can do. Space-derived data can benefit, has the potential to provide solutions across the board. I'm not going to go and list them all, but we know land and physical planning, food security, environmental monitoring, natural resources management. We've seen transportation. We've seen climate change monitoring and adaptation, many, many uses. And the purpose of this panel is really to explore that, mainstreaming the space economy in national development with several high-level officials. Cabinet ministers will be joining us, and ambassadors of foreign missions. So what's going to happen is I'm going to invite them all, one at a time. They will come and they'll take their seats, and then we shall begin our very brief discussion. We're going to abbreviate it a little bit, just so that we did save on a bit of the time that we lost in the morning when we started. But I encourage our panelists, take your time. Talk as long as you need to. I will politely cut you off should that time arrive. Okay. The first panelist I would like to welcome, and again, this is in no particular order, is the High Commissioner of the Republic of India to Kenya, Her Excellency, Ms. Namgia Kampa. Let's give her a round of applause as she comes to her seat. Yes, she is, of course, she's a career diplomat with extensive experience in China and the United Nations. She has advanced degrees in international relations and has served on the executive board of the UNDP and UNFPA. Please, Karibu Balozi. The next ambassador the next panelist I would like to invite is none other than our chief guest, Honorable Aden Duale, the Cabinet Secretary for Defense. Let's give him a round of applause as he comes. We all know, of course, that Honorable Duale is responsible for policy formulation and strategic direction. Thank you, Dr. Yes, the applause should not stop. He is responsible for policy formulation, strategic direction in the Ministry of Defense, and he has served 3 consecutive terms in Kenya's National Assembly, holds degrees in education, bachelor's in business administration. So everybody in Kenya knows Honorable Duale, and we're very happy that you're here with us, sir. Next, I would like to invite to the stage another Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Soipan Tuya, the Cabinet Secretary for Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry. Let's give her a round of applause, massive round of applause. Karibu Waziri. She will sit next to our Honorable Chief Guest. And of course, we all know Honorable Tuya is a 2-term Member of Parliament and an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. She has led initiatives focused on women's rights and environmental governance, and we're very excited to hear what she will say with us today. Our second to last, in terms of the order I'm listening, again, no particular order, is His Excellency, the Ambassador of the Italian Republic to Kenya, Your Excellency Roberto Natali. He is here with us. Let's give him a round of applause as he joined us to the stage. Also a very accomplished and experienced diplomat. He has a distinguished career in diplomacy, having served in Ecuador and Finland, where he was actually involved in Finland's accession to the European Union, and he currently represents Italy in Kenya and the Seychelles. Last, but certainly not least, and I'm just pausing because I can see he's talking final adjustments on how we go. Our panelists, you all have water and a microphone. Excellent, he is ready. Please put your hands together for His Excellency, the Ambassador of the Arab Republic of Egypt to Kenya, Mr. Wael Nasruddin Atiyah, who is, of course, joining us as well as our final panelist. So if you can please take the final seat. He is a seasoned diplomat with over 3 decades of experience, particularly in human rights. He has served in various capacities, including as Egypt's ambassador to the State of Palestine and Deputy Assistant Foreign Minister for the Human Rights. I'm now going to go and join them here. And just to confirm that we all have a microphone with us that we can use. Fantastic. Okay, so the microphones are off, and ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a very brief discussion. I think we might have a few visuals as well as we go along. I'm going to ask each of them a question. Let's follow and listen in attentively to all our panelists who are here with us. My apologies, I'm going to be using the term balozi for our ambassadors. That is a Kenyan word for ambassador. Just so that if you hear that, don't wonder who are we calling. That's just about all the Swahili I know, so I hope we will do well together with that. Without much further ado, namaste, karibuni, assalamu alaikum, buongiorno, tagwenya, karibuni tena. Let us actually begin this discussion. Balozi Kampa, I'd love to start with you, and a very, very simple question. I think the Indian journey in space has been remarkable, transformative over the last few decades. Can you share with us India's journey to becoming a power in space exploration and exploitation? And maybe a small follow-up would be, based on India's experiences, how can developing countries like Kenya develop indigenous space capabilities to address pressing development challenges?
Good morning and namaskar and hamjambo. First, let me just express my pleasure at being part of this very eminent panel and congratulate the Kenya Space Agency under the leadership of Cabinet Secretary Duale for the second edition of this Space Expo and Conference. I look forward to very engaging conversations and fruitful outcomes, and the stage has been set by Ambassador Thigo in his powerful exposition on why this matters to Kenya and to the world at large. Coming to your question, Mr. Moderator, India's space journey has truly been incredible, and the story goes back to 1962, which is the genesis of India's space program, and I promise to keep this brief so it won't be a huge historical outline of our space journey, but just to capture the beginning, 1962. In 1969, India created its National Space Agency, which is called the Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO. And since then, ISRO has grown from strength to strength to today arguably becoming the most cost-effective space program in the world. And it has hit many momentous milestones, including the landing on the South Pole of the Moon last year, a soft landing that was a first for any country in the world. And what has really distinguished ISRO and its accomplishments in India's space journey has been high science and low cost, and frugal space engineering. This is something that we have developed based on our national circumstances and excelled in it, if I might add. And if you look at, and I'm not sure if there are studies out there, there are a lot of space enthusiasts and space experts here, perhaps you can shed better light, but if you look at returns on per dollar of investment into the space sector, I would argue that India would be right up there on the top in terms of our returns on per dollar of investment in the space sector. And the results have been lauded nationally and internationally over recent years. Many of you perhaps know this. It's an interesting statistic that I like to quote. Our mission to the Mars was about $74 million US. Our mission to the Moon last year, the Chandrayaan mission, the soft landing that we achieved in August last year, was about $75 million US. And there are movies in Hollywood, many of you would have seen them, including movies like Interstellar, Gravity, that have cost upwards of $100 million to make the movie, whereas we've actually sent the missions to space in less than that cost. So frugal engineering has been really at the heart of what ISRO's achievements have been about and suit our national circumstances as a developing country. ISRO's activities have broadly been focused on three verticals. The first in terms of satellite fabrication and satellite development for remote sensing and communications largely. The second is in terms of the development of space transportation systems and launch vehicles, and the third is in the area of space applications. And I just want to add that we are now at another critical lift-off stage in India's space journey, excuse the bad pun. And that is fueled by reforms, crucial reforms that have been undertaken in the last 4 years by the government of India. One is to open the sector to private sector players. And India has liberalized the space economy in India for private sector participation, and in 2020 has created a dedicated single window agency under the government called InSpace, one of the partners for this event we have here today. And InSpace is meant to promote, regulate, and facilitate private sector participation in the space economy in India, among other things. The second thing that India has done in the last 4 to 5 years is to liberalize foreign investment into India's space economy, and we today allow 100% foreign direct investment under both the automatic route as well as the prior approval route for foreign investment into all aspects of the space economy. And this has further opened up the sector for positioning it for an exponential jump. And we have also issued the National Space Policy last year that really puts into place a predictable framework and a division of labor, as well as identifies priorities in the development of the space industry in India. And we are very bullish in India on mainstreaming the space economy into our national journey and on the spin-offs from that for India's space sector, because for us, the theme that you've chosen for your expo this year resonates loud and clear. The underlying philosophy of India's space sector has principally been, how do we utilize advanced technologies for the real problems that we face in our society, that people face. And I want to really use something that Prime Minister Modi, Narendra Modi, said last year, which is that there should be no space between society and space technologies, between the common man and space technologies. And this is really for us been the guiding light in terms of our space endeavors in India. And we believe in strong international partnerships in that regard, and that in some ways takes me to your question on how can we do more with Kenya, or whether there are any useful frames of reference for Kenya in this. And I think that I don't want to presume what Kenya should be doing in this regard, because for me, very important from where I sit and from India's experience is that there is no one-size-fits-all sort of template to borrow. We have to look at our own national circumstances in terms of what we evolve in a space framework. But certainly, a couple of things that strike me. One is that we don't necessarily need to reinvent the whole wheel in terms of how capital intensive this sector is, and we can leverage international partnerships and collaboration. India itself is doing more with our partners around the globe, including Kenya, on capacity building and on developing geospatial information networks with Kenya. And we believe that there is much more that is possible in this regard. CS Duale mentioned about all the activities and initiatives that Kenya is undertaking with its international partners. I think the second is around awareness, and I heard that also in the DG's speech, that we have to build awareness and a vibrant discourse around how space sector can benefit the economy, because there is really no stark boundary anymore between what constitutes space and what constitutes non-space activities. And we heard from Ambassador Thigo a lot of applications in our daily economic life and a lot of economic spin-offs from that for the country in all sectors. So that is certainly something there, and to support innovation and to support inclusive and democratic participation in space economy through private sector participation, through participation of international partners and other agencies that are involved, to inculcate a strong discourse around the youth of the country, because the space leaders of tomorrow will be made today, and how that can help in the national journey of a country. I probably have exceeded your time duration by a lot, but I'll just leave these initial thoughts for now.
Thank you so much, Balozi. I'll allow it because there is so much that we can learn. Yes, we can give her a round of applause. I think the startups, private sector are very excited to hear what India is doing to open up the market to them. And of course, our engineers in the building, Kenya Space Agency, making it frugal space engineering is something we're excited for. Thank you very much for those remarks. Balozi, Natalie, I'm going to come to you because we have Kenya and Italy have a very long relationship of friendship when it comes to many areas, but including space technology and space exploration. Italian Republic itself is a great power in space exploration and exploitation. What lessons can we learn as Kenya from the Italian Republic when it comes to developing our sector, our space sector?
Good morning. First of all, allow me to say a special thank you to the Kenya Space Agency for inviting me in this very important conference about space, and to have the opportunity to take part in this panel with His Excellency, the CS of Defense, Aden Duale, and Her Excellency, the Cabinet Secretary for Environment, Forestry, and climate change, yeah, sorry, exactly. So what lesson? I don't think that we have to give lesson. We have to learn lessons together. And this is the first point. And the first lesson we have to learn together is that in this field, space exploration and investigation, no country can act alone, in the sense that the key word is cooperation, international cooperation. We have an example. Even the United States, that, as we know, are a superpower in this sense, carry out their activities in space in synergy with other countries. For instance, Italy, not only for the International Space Station, in which Italy has made a lot of stuff inside the station, but also, for instance, with Sonda Cassini, which is a special high-tech device to explore the planet of Mars. So we are working on that. But coming to the relation with Kenya, it has been said that Kenya has this wonderful location on the equatorial line, which must be used to develop this activity. It's so important. And so thanks to an officer and an engineer, an Italian officer and engineer in the 60s, who had this vision. This is something unbelievable, because I couldn't imagine someone at that time making these studies and saying this is the place, and also starting with all the connections and all the relations with the government of Kenya of the time, to place in the outskirts of Malindi this important center. This is something which is a joy and a point of reference for our bilateral relations. And we have decided as embassy and also the Italian Space Agency to give a tribute to this Italian Broglio, and we have out in the corridor, we put some panels with his history, which is the history of Italy and Kenya.
Fantastic.
In this sector. I don't know, I can go, oh no, you want
I would love you to keep talking. I'll give you a few more minutes, Bolozi. I'm really excited to hear about the booth that is outside.
Okay, now the other important keyword is education. It's so important to work to educate young people, young students in this sector, which is already an important sector. We have seen how much it's important, how many things satellite science can do. But this is also the future, and we know that. This is the future, and we want that Kenyan students who already have the big chance of speaking perfect English at every level. This is important because English is the language of this science, of space, and this is something that can be underlined and must be underlined. And the Malindi Center, San Marco Station, should be and could be a center for training young people, not only of Kenya, but also of the African countries. And this means that Kenya can become a hub for this important science of the future.
Grazie, Balozi.
Prego.
That's the only Italian I know. Let's give him a round of applause as well. Thank you so much for that. And I think also thank you for being such a long-standing partner and friend when it comes to space exploration and exploitation here in Kenya. We do appreciate it, and I think the Kenya Space Agency has several initiatives around education and awareness. It's one of the core tenets and objectives. So we're very excited to understand that we are on the right track. Thank you very much for that. Our chief guest, Honorable Duale, you're a very, very, again, experienced politician and diplomat and technocrat here in Kenya as well. And you're aware of how Kenya operates and the limits of our international cooperation and the bounds or the limitlessness of it. Maybe my question to you is, how can international collaboration between developed and developing countries accelerate the use of space-related technologies and other emerging technologies for societal good?
Thank you very much. Let me first thank the organizers for elevating the whole issue of space to a national conversation, and how national development and collaboration with international partners and governments can help the Kenya Space Agency. I think a lot is happening globally and even regionally and even in our country on how space is so important in the socio-economic and national development of many countries. And to start with, we can use the space in terms of data. Data is very, very important to policymakers, to governments, to private sector, and to public entities. The beginning of everything that you do is you get the right data. You use the historical data, you compare it with the current data. So from the use of that data, space data, in creating smart cities, for example, smart transport, smart agriculture, dealing with the environment. And that's why my colleague, the Minister for Climate Change and Environment, food security is very critical for the space, information and data, to control floods and predict floods, to predict rain, to preserve our environment and forestry. These are very, very key. Use the space in even defense, in terms of surveillance, border control. So space is critical now to national development. From now where we sit as Kenya Space Agency, for us to reach where we want to, and not only us, even as the ambassador of Italy and ambassador, High Commissioner of India said, you cannot work and improve on space agency in isolation. In fact, if there's one sector that requires partnership, both at the regional and international level, is space. And that's why I can sit here without fear of any contradiction. I have been to India, and I have gone through their development of space agency. In fact, I was there, I think 1 week, 2 weeks after the satellite that they went to the moon. I was in Italy, and I went to all the Italian space agency. And I've seen how those countries have really invested and developed and are making use of space in all spheres of life, from security to economic development to social issues of community. So it's very, very key. And that's why in the last 6 months, at cabinet level, the government of Kenya, we have solidified and make serious commitment to our partners, whether it's India, Italian Republic, whether it's our African colleagues, the Republic of Egypt, where the African Space Agency headquarters is established, in Europe, talk of all those countries in Europe, including Ukraine, France, and we are doing that because for us to make use of the good location that we have in Kenya, that our location is critical, our stability in the region. Kenya is an anchor state, is the most stable country in our region. So stability is very key for the development of space. Our human capital, Kenya is known for serious human capital in our region. So all those factors favor the expansion of the space agency working together with our partners. And I want to assure the audience that going forward, the Ministry of Defense, where the Kenya Space Agency is domiciled, will do whatever it takes globally to make sure that we develop a very robust, serious space infrastructure that both us as a country and our partners globally will use it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Honorable Dwale, our chief guest. I think for all our international partners from other diplomatic missions, as our CS has said, we are in a perfect position. Kenya is positioned perfectly. We're stable economically, we are leaders in the region, we have the manpower, the human resource, the intellectual capacity, even our physical location on the world map at the equator is perfect for space exploration and exploitation. So let us work together as our CS has encouraged. I want to thank our Egyptian ambassador for being patient enough to wait for his turn to speak. Honorable Soya, we're going to let you close off the initial remarks, so we're saving the best for last, aren't we all? But our esteemed Egyptian ambassador, Your Excellency, what role, we've just heard from our cabinet secretary on what we intend to do as a Kenyan government and how we can really cooperate, but maybe on a broader level, what role should governments play in developing countries? Because you have the unique context of Africa and the challenges that we face. What role should we play in developing and promoting and fostering the use of space technologies for societal benefits?
Thank you for the question, and thank you, first of all, for inviting me to be part of this panel and conference. Normally, or it's in the back mind, given the space race between the superpowers and the Cold War, that space is all about military and about security issues. But probably it was at that point of time. But now things have developed a lot, and there are peaceful applications, many peaceful applications to space technology, and they are widely available to all countries in the world to make benefit of them. They could be used in urban planning, they could be used in agriculture, in many ways in agriculture, and I'll speak a little bit about agriculture because I know Kenya is an agricultural country, in Egypt too. Large number of the population works in agriculture, so it has actually, these applications have affected the lives of many in Egypt as well. The applications could even go as far as helping to explore the natural resources in the country, which has happened with Egypt, for example, a country with limited water resources. We've managed to monitor the water that we have, not only overground but also underground, and the aquifers that we have, that also using different technologies, including satellite and space technology. So I think these are elements that could be widespread in different countries. A country like Kenya, there are various possibilities for using space technology in deciding in which areas you should grow which crop and which time of year, for example, to follow up on the crop that you are growing in this area, and to see if there's any defects with the crop so that you can actually try to mitigate any damage that would happen. You can also decide on the amount of water needed, if it needs irrigation, regular irrigation, or if it could only depend on water rainfalls. You can also decide on the inputs in agriculture. Of course, that pesticides as well as fertilizers are being used in agriculture, but at the same time, they have, as the Honorable CS for Environment would tell, of course, they have negative effects on the environment as well, on the carbon dioxide emissions. So you could actually manage to decrease the amount of pesticides that are being used, and you can decide on the amount of water. We all know that agriculture consumes about 2/3 of fresh water worldwide. So basically, you can decrease that with the right information and data that you can get from satellites and from other technologies. So these are elements that could be used in a country. But then, in order to do that, you have to promote the knowledge and the different uses of this technology to the whole public in different fields. So farmers have to know about this. Planners, of course, they have to know about this. Different industries as well. You can also monitor the climatic change, whether there is, you can predict, for example, if there is a drought coming or if there are floods. You can monitor the seashore erosions and their effects on the fisheries and as well as the communities on these areas. So they're huge areas in which you can use these technologies. In Egypt, for example, I would make a few remarks just to highlight some of these challenges that we've managed to overcome with the use of different technologies, including space technology. For example, in agriculture, we've managed to increase the overall irrigated and agricultural land in Egypt from 6.5 million acres to 10.4 million. And we are planning to increase that to 14 million in the coming 6 years. We've managed to allocate which lands are best to use for agriculture and which lands are best to use for industrial zones and so on. So that helped us a lot in planning. In terms of the productivity as well, we've managed to increase the productivity of an acre of wheat from 8 irdab. Irdab is, I think, is about 5.6 something bushels. So you can make the calculation. So from 8 irdab to 20, that is over 100 bushels per acre, and that is for wheat. And recently, in some areas in Egypt, we've managed to bring this number up to 30 irdab, which is over 160 bushels per acre of wheat. At the same time, when it comes to corn, for example, we've managed to get the average up to 20, and in some areas, it could actually reach 33 irdab times 5.6.
Wow.
So that's again, over 170 bushels per acre. So these are things that you could use such technologies in, and you can increase productivity. And at the same time, of course, it would help with food security, which is very important for many countries in our region, and make better use of the limited water resources that we have. You could tell which areas that you can use. For example, there are many arid and semi-arid areas in northern part of Kenya and eastern part, and these could actually be used for agriculture very easily. But you have to apply the right technology, and you know exactly where to and how to do that. I'll stop here. I think I've exceeded my time.
Please, a round of applause for His Excellency Althea. I think it's really eye-opening. 100% increase in some cases, 500% increase in crop production, and the specific applications. I think there's a lot that we can definitely take, and we look forward to enhancing that cooperation. I think Egypt has always been a long trade partner for Kenya. Your winters, our summers, the amount we can do with those crop cycles, I think, is incredible, and we're excited to really continue this collaboration. We only have maybe one more question to our Honorable CS for Environment, and then I might ask you all for maybe 1 or 2 questions, and then we can wrap up this session, so we won't be here too much longer. But Honorable Soipan Tuya, our CS for Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry, we've heard of some specific applications around agriculture, and I know there's a lot of leakage we can even, transfer over to our environment industry. But what opportunities do you see, space technologies, what opportunities can they deliver? Where is that room for growth and application that will derive essentially the greatest impact in your ministry?
Thank you very much for this chance. And I start off by thanking my brother and colleague for inviting me to this very important expo with a very pertinent theme of space technologies for societal benefits. When I think about the theme itself, it's about bringing the space technology down to the people to speak to the needs of our populations. And I have also had a very thrilling moment this morning with very high-octane entertainment, which makes space science look fun, with the presentations by the Kimia dancers. I felt like maybe that's how it would feel like being in the moon, going to the moon.
It absolutely is, and I think next time we'll invite you to the stage as well. A round of applause for that. Thank you.
The only thing they forgot to tell us is not to try what they were doing here at home. And I think it's important for us to take that back home. I will be very brief, just giving thematic statements on what I feel is of critical importance for the environment and climate change, and indeed forestry, the importance of the space technology and science. And I want to thank the Kenya Space Agency and of course the Ministry of Defense for making this expo happen now for the second time. It's very critical. I feel like even if I was not invited, I would have get crushed because of how important I think this is for our environment and climate change space. The space economy, it encompasses a wide range of activities related to development, production, and application of space technologies. And just looking at it even from the viewpoint of our bottom-up economic transformation agenda, where at the core of it is job creation, enriching our value chains to speak to the food security needs of the country. Space technology is right at the core of that. And we have already noted the milestones that Kenya has made with the establishment of the Kenya Space Agency, and the data insights that we will continue to gain from the TAIFA 1, and particularly for my ministry. We are really looking to enhance the data, information, and an opportunity to unlock a multitude of opportunities for the country. In terms of informed decision-making in the environment, climate change, and forestry sector, the Earth observation satellites provide an extensive data on weather patterns, resource distribution, and environmental changes. And by leveraging on this data, we can make critical decisions such as infrastructure development, resource management, and disaster preparedness. Real-time monitoring, for me, is another very critical area where traditionally our monitoring was scheduled and reactive, with issues being discovered only when reported. But with the new technologies and the advancement that is in the offing, we will be going to real-time monitoring of various resources. And it also comes at a critical point where we are saying that we have continued in this country to move without a clear accounting of the value of our natural resources, which will dictate the decision-making and investments necessary to really profile our natural resources, as well as the interventions that need to go into limiting the natural disasters and the high degradation levels of our natural resources. Because once we attach the accurate value, then resources will follow, and thereafter investments to make sure that we are taking care of our natural resources. We have recently focused so much on our meteorological department, and I think we will all agree that now more than ever, we have a very close dependence on what the weatherman is saying here in Kenya, but we still have space to improve that. And I think with partnership and collaboration, we have a high opportunity to refine that so that we have accurate early warning systems that speak to that rural farmer and who can then make informed decision way before time, so that we stop the firefighting and reactive interventions that we have seen in the past. I'd like to mention that in 2021, the Ministry of Environment did a forest assessment report, which gave us the current statistics of our tree cover, which stands at 12.13%, and our forest cover of 8.83%. And this was only possible with high-resolution images. And the exercise identified areas that needed intervention, much of which has informed our ecosystem restoration planning and action that we are currently taking. We have not maximized on the potential of how to make sure that we have real-time assessment of the improvement even coming from our ecosystem restoration interventions, and that is a space that is available for us to expand further. The climate change mitigations, and this is an area where we are faced with evidences of the adverse effects of climate change on a daily basis. Fresh in our minds is the current devastating floods, and by integrating satellite data with advanced analytics, we can better predict and intervene to minimize the catastrophic impacts of the climate change actions. I want to say that the possibilities are immense. We know that in our country, as has been said, I think, Waziri, the issue of investing in our space technologies cannot be overemphasized. We need to focus on, because this is about efficiency in our decision making and in our interventions that will better the lives of Kenyans, and for Kenya to be in step with the global direction that the space science is going into. And this brings me to my point of calling for close collaborations to make sure that with our strategic positioning as a country, then we can maximize our impact. And I can assure you, Waziri Duale is really, and I really commend the effort of your ministry to really bring to the fore the issue of space science, and I'm sure this is going forward to form priority areas in terms of investment for our country. In conclusion, the integration of space technologies offers unparalleled opportunities for informed decision-making, real-time monitoring, and climate change mitigation. These advancements are crucial for the sustainable development of our nation. Mainstreaming the space economy into national development is not an opportunity. It's not just an opportunity, but a critical necessity for sustainable growth. As we explore this frontier, let us ensure that our strategies are inclusive, fostering innovation, create high-skilled jobs that will drive our economy forward. And with this high skilling, the area of research and the STEM space is another one that we really need to loop in our education sector to spotlight the focus on skills development around space technologies. Thank you very much for the sponsors and participants, and let us enhance our partnership because, as has been said before, this is an area where collaborations are very immense, have immense opportunity, and as Balozi says, it is about learning from each other, you know, and sharing experiences and joining hands together because, again, we share the same space. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We've heard from everybody, and thank you so much, Waziri, for those remarks. Because of time, I didn't want us to take much longer. However, Chief Guest, with your permission, if I can ask a question and give everybody 30 seconds to answer, will that be okay? If you say yes, then we can. If you say no, then okay, he has said it's okay. So we have a very quick rapid fire round of questions, and it's just going to be two. I'm going to ask three of you one question, and then I'm going to ask everybody for concluding remarks so that we can be done in the next few minutes. And I think this one, Balozi Kampa, Honorable Tuya, of course also Balozi Atia, you're all champions and ambassadors for women's rights and gender equality and equity. We have seen tremendous strides in many areas. I mean, you're both examples, Honorable Tuya, Balozi Kampa, you're both examples of women at the forefront when it comes to policy making and the diplomatic space and, you know, the technocratic space, but we still are lacking a little bit when it comes to women in STEM and women in space specifically. I want to give you 30 seconds, and I have my watch here, and I can hear the DG. He's going to whisper to me at the back when I've taken too long. 30 seconds just on your thoughts on what we can do to have more women join the space. Very general, you don't have to be anything specific, but what you think, any ideas that we can take forward. I'm going to start with you, Balozi Kampa.
So, in 30 seconds, I think that from India's perspective, it's actually an incredible story from India about participation of women in the space economy. We have today many bright spots in India's space successes that are led by women, mission directors, deputy mission directors, scientists out there who are leading from the front and really showing for other sectors an example that can be emulated in other areas as well. Of course, we can scale it up further and do more, and I think very briefly it starts with education, with inclusion of girls and women in STEM disciplines and encouragement to participate in STEM disciplines. And here also I'm very proud to say that India is a bit ahead of the curve in terms of the participation of girls and women in STEM disciplines. The more you get them out there, the more you have an engagement with youth and conversations around space technology and its relevance, not just in their professional choices, but also the impact they make on their country and on the ecosystems and the communities they inhabit. I think those are powerful enablers for girls and women to participate.
Thank you very much for the brief and powerful answer. One, just because we're gone one time, even the round of applause is just one abbreviated clap, so just, and we're done. Thank you. Maybe I will ask our ambassador from Egypt, just your thoughts as well, because you've also been a champion for women's rights on what we can do to have more women in the space industry.
I would actually echo Her Excellency in what she's mentioned. I mean, education is the base. That it has to be the grounds on which you build the generations that are capable of dealing with space technology and its applications in different areas of the economy. But when it comes to giving more advancement or more encouragement to women, I would think that issues of financial inclusion are very, very important. Allowing women to be able to establish their own firms, to register their own properties, as well as to get over any social hindrances that might be in the face of the empowerment of women. The financial inclusion is important. Once they have the access to the banking system, not just the M-Pesa. M-Pesa is a great invention. I think it's an experience that needs to be replicated in different parts of Africa and elsewhere. But I think more of that, how would they be able to tap resources and that are available through banks and loans and so on, and then initiate their own businesses that would actually depend on use some of these applications. But the most important thing, and I think this is the role of any government, is to increase the participation of the private sector and in applications of space technology, as well as promoting the knowledge of the importance of these applications.
Thank you so much, Balozi. Honorable Tuya, now I actually have to count 30 seconds because I think the DG has texted me right now that we need to conclude. So I'll give you 30 seconds and then I'll give everybody a very, very brief closing remarks, one sentence just to close off the session, and then we can end. But Honorable Tuya.
I'll take 30 seconds to say the first woman Kenya Air Force commander in the history of Africa is none other than Major General Fatuma. And that happened recently. And these are actions that happen when there is an enabling space to give opportunity to women to take the frontline leadership in some of these otherwise untraditional spaces. I know tucked somewhere in our Kenya Kwanza manifesto is the need to enhance the participation and the enabling of women to get into the STEM space. And like I had said, it is about bringing the education sector into the center of these discussions. And I know that is a space that women will get in and do exploits. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for those brief remarks. Balozi, Natalie, maybe I can ask you, we haven't heard your voice in a very long time already in the panel, but if you can just give a concluding remark, and we'll go around and let everybody have an opportunity to give just one concluding remark for what we've talked about today. Oh, sorry. Yes, there we are.
Yes, okay. Thank you. We know that the women excel in many fields, much more than men. But for instance, in the space field in Italy, we have a lot of women working in the companies dealing with space and in the studies with space. But I would just like to mention Samantha Cristoforetti, who is a woman who has been employed and working on the international space station, and is one of our lady who is a woman we are proud in Italy for this activity in the space.
Let's give her a round of applause and hope with that message goes back to Italy. Your Excellency Atia, if you can also just concluding remarks generally for the session, and then I will follow that with Balozi Kampa, Honorable Tuya, and finally our chief guest will give concluding remarks.
I couldn't agree more with Waziri Toya, what she said, that it is cooperation, sharing experiences that we need, and this is why we have an African Space Agency now that is not only capable of providing the data image and imageries and so on that we can get from satellites, but also work on research and to allow its facilities to be used by African states in order to verify and test whatever satellites that they would want to launch. I think this is a great opportunity. We need to capitalize on it, and it is not only for the benefit of the governments, it's also and mostly for the benefits of our own populations.
Thank you very much for that. Balozi Kampa?
Yes, just to conclude by saying that we are really excited to see Kenya's space journey and also very excited to explore the opportunities therein for bilateral cooperation with India. We are already doing so at the G2G level, but we look forward to harvesting opportunities at the G2B level as well as at the B2B level. And this is in evidence from the fact that we have a robust delegation from India participating in this conference and expo today, including the private sector and government agency in space. And we are committed to taking our partnership in the space economy from strength to strength. So thank you, Asante, for having me on this panel.
Thank you very much. And Honorable Tuya, she whispered to my ear that, yes, the soft landing that India did indeed feel like the dancing that happened earlier. So we can confirm that. Concluding remarks, please.
Thank you very much. Mine is just to say that the space science and technology is one that requires a concerted effort from the national government level. You have seen that the Ministry of Education should be at the core of it, the Ministry of Environment, and of course the Defense Ministry where it's domiciled, even the security aspects. And my presence here and the commitment that my colleague here has shown into the need to really support the space technology environment in this country is a demonstration of the national government's commitment to support this space and to make sure that space science and technology becomes real in terms of impact that brings lasting change to the populations of this country and even enhancing our GDP, reducing the poverty levels of our populations. And it is a commitment that we are very unequivocal about as members of cabinet. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. And our chief guest, Waziri Dole, if you can just conclude the session for us. Thank you.
I think we'll wait for the deliberation of this important conference, and as ourselves, our partners, it will be very important for us to gain more valuable information, recommendations to improve on the development of the space agencies in our respective countries. I am sure the space economy will provide data and information to policymakers, both government and private sector and citizens, in making the right decision going forward, from climate change to smart cities, to urban planning, to surveillance for defense sectors. And finally, our international guest, you are in the city with the only city in the world with a national park, just behind you here. So if you have time, you can go and, if you have free time, go to the national park. And as you walk around here, if you encounter a lion, make sure that you be careful because it's not a domesticated lion. So be very, very careful. You can find around here, particularly in the evenings or late afternoons. Please be careful.
Thank you very much. Can we give the entire panel a round of applause with a bit of noise now? Woo! Let's a bit of a shout one more time. Okay, perfect. That was enough. I heard it. As we prepare, I'm going to ask our panelists to sit. We just have a few official photos to take. And our camera team is ready. Just to let everybody know, I think we have rapporteurs who will summarize and will share everything we've learned. Mark Ndonga, Malkia Kelelu. So thank you so much for your support with that. And we have multiple photos that we will be taking. I think we'll start with the panelists first. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Karaganya. Yes, our first frame, unfortunately, Kara, you'll just move away from the frame.
Told them allowed to sit for this one because it, but the rules have changed, so I have to leave. Okay. All right.
Yes, Karaganya, thank you very much for your excellent moderating. A round of applause for him. I appreciate that our cabinet secretaries have a full program ahead for their day. So I would like to invite the ambassadors that are not on stage. Your Honorable Excellency, Mr. Luis Alejandro Levitt, Your Excellency, Ms. Nicole Adamkova from the Argentina Embassy and Czech Embassy, respectively. I would like to also invite Lorenzo Gabancota, the Deputy Ambassador for the Italian Embassy, and I would like to invite Ambassador Figo for this photo, please.
And also our VCDF for KDF, Lieutenant General Omenda, as well, to join us. If we can